Good morning, good night, good afternoon. Whatever time you're watching this, thanks for watching Common Sense Talks. I really appreciate all the likes, views, subscribes, and shares. So today's subject is going to be about the George Floyd protest, rioters, looters, about the Brandon B. Tatum and Lucas issue, and my take on what's going on with the current events. So let's see how you like it. Hope you enjoy the video. All right, so first I want to jump into the Brandon B. Tatum versus Lucas situation. All right, so Brandon B. Tatum is, in my opinion, kind of a hardcore conservative, or not necessarily a hardcore, but more on the conservative side. Lucas, from watching his videos, definitely seems conservative with all the Gamergate stuff, right? His views on that. But his views racially and colorly, like I believe he's a little bit more middle of the road. He sees the injustice in the police and what's going on. I don't think either one is quite right or wrong. Now, I'm not a black man. Who am I to say, right, as far as on that goes? However, have a ton of friends who are, and I've been raised amongst many different races, and I myself am of a mixed race, so race has never really been an issue for me. I never really did fit in with one group homogeneously or another. I was never fully Native American, didn't grow up on a reservation, have no ties or anything to that culture, and can't relate to their struggles. I am not, obviously, and when I was young, wasn't white enough to hang out with the little blonde hair, blue-eyed white kids, right? The rich upper class ones. I grew up in a poor neighborhood. I was always kind of looked at a little funny, like people didn't even know what race I was. I don't really care what race I was. All I know is I wanted to play and have fun. So my friends, my first two best friends, Michael and Marlis Riley, two black kids who their sister used to babysit me, and I was the crazy one. I was the bad kid out the three, right? You can ask her. She's awesome. So those two were my best friends. Both were killed by other black people. Black on black crime. May they rest in peace. Love you guys. Michael and Marlis Riley. Google their names, check them out. Sad story. My two first best friends. I also grew up around Latinos, Asians, right? And again, Hispanics, like, mi sabe español, so 3 años, foster farms, mi trabajo, mi amigos, no mucho inglés, mi no mucho español. Hey, amigo, ¿cómo dice telephone español, or whatever? And I'd learn a little bit, right? So I grew up with a lot of different friends, a lot of different backgrounds, and to me, it was never really a big issue. However, as I got older and I experienced more and see more things in the world, obviously it still is. All right. So let's talk with what's my take on this. So with the Brandon B. Tatum, I think he's a little too much to the right. I think Lucas is a little bit too much to the left. I think I'm more leaning towards Lucas's side as far as Brandon B. Tatum won't criticize the police. He'll criticize the one or two police officers, but not this thin blue line, or the fact that when one cop is standing on a guy's neck, the rest of them stand there and do nothing. And if it had been 20 cops, would they all be arrested? And then even if they would they even be prosecuted, and would the jury find them guilty? Tough case. But that's the kind of stuff that I think Lucas would be talking about, right? That there is in certain areas. You got to understand the United States is a very diverse place with diverse views depending on where you're at. So, like, for example, I grew up totally without a racist bone in my body, pretty much, right? Until I'd either get jumped or beat up by black people or whoever. Then you'd get mad and say something, right? As you grew up, you'd experience things where people would call you a cracker or a honky or whatever. Now, me, because being a mutt, I've had a few attacks like that, but to be honest, the most racist things I've heard usually have came from either white people talking about others, or even about me. Like, I was never white enough to hang out with them. Like, I'm not white, I'm Mexican, I'm whatever, right? And I've heard a lot of black people talking negative about white people. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in a very, again, mixed area where if you were like, you had that card, you could say the N word, or you hung out with black people enough, right? You were cool, you were accepted, you know. But I choose to never really use that word. I don't believe that. I don't care if you have the card or not, that you should be. I don't even think black people should be using that word. But whatever, that's their choice. That's their prerogative. And you know what word I'm talking about. I think really it shouldn't be used. And, it's a curse word in my opinion. So, but back to the subject at hand. I know that there are problems and that there are places in America that racism either still exists in a sense, it exists a lot, or varying different degrees. And some examples of that would be, there are some places in the South where literally this entire community is white, that entire community is black, and it's not just the South, a lot of other places. And they don't like other people in their community, right? They'll get upset, and it happens both ways. And I'd also like to stop for a moment to say racism is hating anyone for their skin color, regardless. Black people can be racist against whites. Whites can be racist against blacks, against Asians, Mexicans, vice versa. It doesn't matter. Hating someone because they're different race than you is racism, plain and simple. Has nothing to do with the position of power or authority. If you believe that, then you must not understand or know history and know that the Irish were pretty much slaves when they came here, and that there were a lot of poor white communities who never had any kind of privilege or any of this stuff you're talking about. And that there were affluent black communities as well, and black people that there were free states as well as slave states. That there were black people that were never slaves. There were black people that have been doctors and lawyers and things for over hundreds of years. All right. So, yes, racism exists, but you got to understand history. You got to understand where we come from. And we've made a ton of change. And then look at Martin Luther King. He wouldn't want all this rioting, he wouldn't want all these burning of buildings. He would want peaceful protests. And that's where we need to distinguish the difference between a peaceful protester and a rioter and a looter. Like, that's where Brandon's right, right? So protesting is right. Rioting, looting, not cool. I don't care. I understand that the system has not changed. So every time a black man dies and it's obviously bad, they just go after the one officer. There's never any reform. So the anger just builds up and builds up. So for the people on the right and the conservatives, you've got to understand and see that. You've got to understand that that anger and that emotion is building up every time there's an injustice, and there's never anything done with it. And there are so many. You could go and in public records and find massive, massive um, examples of black people being sentenced for the same crime as a white dude or a Mexican or whatever, and they have the same background, same kind of crime, and one's get a huge punishment over the other. And it's very consistent. Not all the time, but this happens a lot. And then not in every place. So it's not like every court is racist. It's not like every police officer is racist. But there is some systemic issues we need to address. There should be flatline sentencing, like straightforward pricing. Like, hey, man, if you're white, black, blue, red, I don't care what you are. If you commit this crime, your sentence is this. Not, okay, 1 year to 10 years, because then they give the black man 10 years and they give the white man 1 year. And that's not cool. So this kind of stuff needs to be addressed. Yes, it happens. Is it everywhere? No. But it happens enough that you can't just say there's only a few bad cops. You can't just say there's only a few bad judges. There's too much of it. And then the rest of the supposed good guys don't stop or do anything. It makes them culpable. Because in real life, if somebody had committed a crime and I was with them, it makes me guilty, whether I supported them or did it or not. Right? So on the right, on the conservative side, you've got to understand that there is some change and reform that has to be done. And I think the Republican and right, the leadership right now, um, honestly has not been stepping up and having the balls to stop the rioters and looters, for one, and then two, they don't seem to have the intelligence to explain to you guys the difference between the two. And then I think we need to have more conversation. We need to try to reach out to others and have a conversation where, let's say, there's a looter or a rioter. You're gonna have someone like on the Tucker Carlson show, and I think Tucker is great. He's very smart, but right, you get them on, and when the rioter or looter starts talking some insanity, if you talk them down, you make them seem stupid, or you shoot them down. You're just validating their feelings and their emotions. You need to understand where some of these people are coming from and address their concerns and not brush them off. See, what I see happen is they address them in these minute statements. Then they jump to the conservative, oh, but it's only, oh, so many millions of police interactions, and oh, they're so positive, and oh, this and that. No, stop. You need to address the problem, and we need to fix it before we move on. We can't just say, oh, there's a problem, but this. And then everything goes back to the same way as normal. We need to address this before we can move on. And on the other side, too, again, the Democratic people, Antifa people, you can't be beating people up, you smashing buildings with bricks and sticks. You know, when I was younger, I kind of thought, oh, anarchy. But I tell you what, you've got to have rules. You've got to have order. See, what happens when you get a business or you work hard for a home and you build something out of hard work and sweat and blood, and some mob of morons basically comes down and destroys what you worked for because their feelings are hurt. That's basically what's going on right now, and you guys need to check that. Antifa is a terrorist organization. Protesting is okay, but looting and rioting is not. You guys need to do the same thing on your end, because all the people that are in the middle or that are conservative, they're seeing this and they're seeing you guys act like animals. And that's true. Oh, you called us an animal. No. Don't pull that race card BS. You literally are, if you look at these photos, acting like animals. Martin Luther King would be ashamed of you. If you march down the street like you're doing now without burning and rioting and looting, and you made a coherent, cohesive um, explanation, and you brought stats and facts. How many people have been killed by the police? Well, you know what you'd end up seeing, honestly, though, is there are more white people killed by the police than blacks, even though blacks are a majority, or just about half of, let's say, the contact and crime, right? So there's some numbers they don't want to admit to, but I mean, the point is there is valid points that they have. How come a white dude gets 6 months or a year in jail for rape, for raping a drunk chick, and then a black dude does it, all let's say consented, but they were drunk, and when she wakes up the next day and there's a black dude in bed and she screams rape and he gets 10 years. That needs to be addressed. And until it does, you're not going to understand their emotion, their anger is going to stay. And they're going to, when you don't address it, this is the way that it's going to come out. So I feel for both sides. And I always say somewhere in the middle is where the truth lies. And so, in my opinion, we need to understand that racism is pretty much all but dead. And by doing this, you're only making it worse now. You're making it worse. You're making black people hate white people more now. And then when white people see gangs of roving black people acting like animals, burning and looting stuff, yeah, there's whites among them too, but what do you think that makes them feel? Right? So it's a complicated situation, and the only way out of this without a civil war and one side just destroying the other is a compromise, is communication, is talk. The only way to get out of this without a civil war again is compromise, talk, communication, facts, statistics, debates, healthy debates, moderators that aren't afraid to get dirty and get in there and stop a fight, as far as letting these debates just spiral out of control with name calling and dumb stuff. The news media is so crooked. Right now, Tucker Carlson, in my opinion, is one of the only good ones. One of the only good ones. CNN, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, Don Lemonhead, Brian Stelter, Chris Cuomo, They are the scum of the earth. There's some that are on the left that are pretty decent, right? But most of these guys are just poisoning you. So some of the people on the right too, pushing ultra conservative, all for the police, calling all these guys bad guys and not addressing the true concerns. They say, oh yeah, it's one guy died, it's one in a, how many times do we, oh, you don't understand that there really is problems. So until that's addressed, it's just going to be a circular situation. Two wrongs don't make a right. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my long-winded rant today, covering what I consider to be today's biggest current event: the George Floyd protests, rioters, looters. Talked about the Brandon B. Tatum versus Lucas thing a little bit, and also in finale, I want to talk about the coronavirus and how isn't it kind of a joke? We all got fooled and bamboozled, destroyed our economy. If it even had a 1% kill rate with as many of these crowds, you should be seeing thousands of hundreds or thousands of healthy people in their 20s to 40s should be dying. If this kill rate is what they say, what you're going to see is maybe the infection rate will spike. This thing was only deadly to very sick people and very old people, people with underlying conditions. We all got had. Pathetic and sad, and it's crazy watching both sides right now. I'm disappointed in the conservative and Republican response, and the Democratic side has just blown my mind with how lunatic they've gone, how far left they've gone. You rewind to just 5, 6 years ago, and they're talking about strong, secure borders, can't have all this illegal immigration, talking about all this, how you gotta, take some responsibility, but yada yada. And now it's literally free housing, free healthcare, free, open borders. It's just insane. I dismantle the police, disband the cops, get rid of the courts. Are you guys freaking nuts? So, anyways, like I said, yeah, when you look at how crazy things are right now, the sides are so polar. It's like, how are we ever going to come together? Well, I guess the only way is by having communication and conversation. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I don't hate you. I hope you don't hate me. Leave a comment below. I'll talk back to you. I'll comment with you. If you do agree with me, awesome. Leave a comment below. What did you agree with me? How did you feel? So thanks for watching the video, and as always, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.